Hey everybody, welcome to the live broadcast. I am here with Yaro Starak of Yaro.blog and formerly entrepreneursjourney.com. Yaro, you've been in the blogging space for a very, very long time. Would you be so kind to let us know all about your story?
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Kelvin. So I've been in the entrepreneurship space online since '99 and started blogging in 2005 when it was just getting started as I guess you could say the first form of social media where, before we had YouTube or Facebook, I think MySpace might have been just doing its thing around then. And I got into blogging purely as a marketer. I had a company at the time. It was an online essay editing company. And I was told blogs are good for getting free traffic from Google. Didn't know what a blog was, though. So I did a bit of research. Still really couldn't figure out. It looked like a website to me. I didn't understand the subtle differences between blogging and owning a website. So I ended up installing some blogging software onto my essay editing company website and attempted to write about the very exciting subject of editing and proofreading, which was a bit of a fail because, frankly, it was a really boring topic. I'm not an editor or a proofreader. I was the owner of the company, but we had contractors doing that job. And yeah, it was a 3-month experiment that showed me that blogging is fun if you're writing about something you enjoy writing about, which for me at the time, and I guess still today, is entrepreneurship. And at that time, I'd already run 2 companies. I had that essay editing company, and I had a Magic the Gathering collectible card game website and e-commerce store before that, back when I was in university. And I played the game when I was a kid in high school. So those experiences gave me a ton of ideas to write into a blog, which I very well, I guess I chose my domain name just because it sounded like the topic I wanted to write about. I chose entrepreneurs-journey.com in 2005 and set up this essentially was meant to be a hobby. It wasn't meant to be the business that I would then run for the next decade and onwards as a teacher and a coach and an information publisher. But that's what got me started. I just dove in and shared stories from, how did I start my card store? How did I start my editing company? There was other stories I shared from some of the more unsuccessful projects I had along the way, but it all made great blog content. And, you do a bit of publishing consistently and an audience starts to show up. So I grew an audience. Then I started growing an email list, which was a huge, very important thing to do. It took me a year to realize how important email was, but I eventually added that to my blog. And within 2 years, I actually released my first course. But even before that, I was doing affiliate marketing and selling advertising on my blog as well. And over the next, like I said, decade, 11, 12 years, I pretty much made my full-time income from selling my course. For a long time, I sold advertising, and for a long time, I sold affiliate products. I haven't done that so much as of my focus. More recently, it's been online courses, membership site, my own training products. But it's always been blogging and podcasting. I've always been creating content. I've always been interviewing people, just writing about, the entrepreneurial journey and teaching. And yeah, I love it. And I still do it. Have a lot of other things going on at the same time, but it's certainly been the thing that's changed my life more than anything else. Well, the internet has been the thing that changed my life more than anything else, but blogging has been a huge part of that.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully everybody listening to this interview loves the internet just as much as we do.
We're all using it to do this, right? So
Yeah, definitely. Um, Two things come to mind when you go over the beginning of your story. So the first thing is that you had a side project that eventually became your full time entrepreneur's journey, essentially. And the second part is that you had started blogging, and this is what helped you build an audience. And I think that if we can take 2 steps back even with that, is that it's so important. So regardless of whether or not you are building a site for as an affiliate, or just to get some advertising dollars into your pocket, I think it's super important because even if you have just a normal job, I think the actual experience of writing and being a publisher can put you way ahead of other people in terms of your own career even. So it's not just applicable for affiliate marketers, but just blogging as an authority in your own niche or in your own career can can supersede you against other people trying to get jobs like yourself against you. But in between then, so the whole journey has been a decade long. Is that what you said?
Well, technically, if I started in '98, so we're into my 20th year right now of
20.
online entrepreneurship. My card game business started in '99, so but 2005 was when the blog started.
So what are changes that you've noticed from back then to now?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the obvious, actually, it's funny. You think back on it, and I feel like change was way more rapid in the first 10 years. Like for me, 98 was all about news groups, static websites. And then slowly we got, social media, blogging was one of those. Then, podcasting. So we had audio, YouTube, we got video. And then there was kind of like the app revolution, obviously, which we're still in today with all the apps we can use to share content. And I think the social media landscape, it just exploded the way you can produce content. So, your Pinterests and your Instagrams and your all your niche networks as well. So that's all been kind of like an evolution of the way we share content. And that's been exciting to sort of see. It's certainly, I think if I was going to say the biggest change though over the years is what happens in every industry, which is that natural maturation cycle where I started and I'm one of the only bloggers writing about my subject. Today, there are so many versions of me on the internet today that, it's just ridiculous. And it's good and bad. Like back then, I won't lie to you, way easier to get started growing an audience. Audience sizes, though, were far smaller. Like I remember when I started, there was a couple of guys that you'd look up to, and they had 5,000 subscribers on their email list or their RSS feed. The very biggest people had 30,000 subscribers. Today, we're talking YouTube channels in the millions, Instagram followings in the millions. Millions is what counts now. Back then, it was tens of thousands was the biggest numbers you could get. But it's funny because the fundamentals haven't changed. Like I still essentially built a niche audience that's not in the millions. It's actually really just a couple of hundred customers who buy my stuff. Sure, there's a few thousand who consume my free content, and maybe tens of thousands up to maybe 1 million a year over an entire year who will at some point touch my work, whether it's downloading a podcast or reading a blog post, which is really still a very small amount of people compared to the overall size of the internet or even just an industry. So that's been the biggest change, is the growth and the number of people who can do it. And that's great because like I started coaching this subject back in 2007. That was the first time I started teaching people how to grow a blog and make money. And, I've got all these case studies of people who I watched then over the next 10 years grow their own businesses, whether it's in the skiing niche or the public speaking niche or the skincare niche or the car niche or the sports niche. All these people jumped into these spaces, followed this model of building an audience, producing content. And obviously, they're the outliers. They're the people who put in the work and became successful. But there are a lot of them. And I think that's fantastic, because how many people now today can actually make a living from the internet? It's millions of people. And that's what I love about it. So that's why I've loved teaching it. I've loved being an example of, I've always called it the laptop lifestyle. I tend to travel a lot and sit at cafes and write blog posts or write a book or, do an interview like we're doing now. And I think that's so amazing. We can use this technology to do that. Plus, you can make a living. I've made more money from selling a digital training product than I have doing anything else in my life. And it's something, it's not physical. I don't have to ship it anywhere. I can replicate it for free over and over again. And it changes people's lives, and it makes a great living for me. So I think it's an amazing time to have the possibility of this kind of business, which we've never had ever. We're also lucky to be an adult in this time of our history. It's pretty special.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think about, sometimes when I'm talking to, let's say even my girlfriend's parents or even my own parents, they have no idea what what I do for a living or any
Yeah.
sorts of things like that, how I make my money online, which is somewhat of a shrouded mystery to probably a lot of people. But even like, in 2018 now, though, the the content publishing business model itself is something that is um it's more believable in a sense, right? Like before, probably back in the day, you'd say to someone, oh yeah, so I produce content online, and these people come onto my email list, and then I form a relationship with them, and then I sell them some sort of solution to their problem. So that that's you probably wouldn't go in depth with a conversation with somebody in that case, but now though, when I speak to somebody and we talk about what our business is, and it's a content publishing business in which we own a portfolio of different websites that are monetized usually through Amazon affiliate marketing. And it's kind of the light bulb definitely goes in people's heads. Like I can see it, and they think, oh, that's, I never knew that was a thing,
Mm.
because most people don't generally know that there's that affiliate marketing exists in the world. There's
Right.
definitely some savvy people, probably 100% of people on Reddit probably know that business model exists. But so far in 2018, it's now something that, yeah, anybody can do. We have people that are that are in our community that have, at least from what I've looked at on their websites, they've got 6,000 visitors a month to their website, and which is not a whole lot, but considering that their entire website is completely focused on one core topic, and the affiliate commissions for that topic and that product are quite high in comparison
Mm.
to other niches, then that allows them to actually to have a nice either it's a side income or a full-time living for them. And yeah, so now it's actually possible, and people, it's not unbelievable at this
No,
point.
no. I mean, we all know what a social media influencer is or a social media marketer. I think that's become at least somewhat mainstream, especially because of Twitter. I mean, we all know Twitter is really just like a news outlet for mainstream news to sort of circulate whatever Donald Trump or Elon Musk is tweeting at the time. So we've gotten used to the platforms and the ideas. I think it's still, affiliate marketing is a good example of something that on the surface, you don't really know what that means. Even the phrase affiliate marketing sounds like it's some sort of secret underground kind of thing. And I remember it was actually one of the very first ways I made money from my blog was selling someone else's ebook as an affiliate. And I remember like the first time I started, and first ever sale I made from that, this $20 commission email popped into my inbox. And I was like, this is like magic. It's like free money. I didn't make a product. I didn't, all I did was write a blog post and link to this other guy's product. And that there's $20 came back. And then it became $200 when, 10 more sales came through. And it's like, if you tell that to people, it sounds like a scam. It really does. If you listen to that on the surface, it's like, what? you're a spammer, right? That's what you're doing. But I think if, Amazon made it a bit more mainstream, people kind of get the idea. I recommend something and there's a commission in return, selling an Amazon product or something like that. But it's still, it still seems like that kind of pseudoscience on the internet kind of scammy thing that you can do. But man, it's old. It's been around since the start of the internet almost. So
Yeah, no, for sure. The connotation of affiliate marketing, I wouldn't say is the most positive thing. Just a prime example is I saw a presentation from Neil Patel at Affiliate World, which is a very, very big conference for affiliate marketers.
right.
And he made this joke about how he was on stage and everything like that. He said, "Oh, sometimes when you're standing in a room with a whole bunch of affiliate marketers, you want to take a shower, don't you?" I mean, it was absolutely hilarious because it's you have to
Joke.
be you have to face reality sometimes, right? That
Yeah.
that things in the past have created a bad image in terms of what affiliate marketing is, but things like the Amazon Associates program itself, which is with $1 billion company, that's how they generate a lot of sales too, right? And I mean, it's an important part of their business, and we're 100% happy to be, you know, basically providing value to people and building a business that we can in terms of this business model. I was going to say that so we've got our general thesis, we'll call it, you know, how our best practices for how we build content publishing businesses. But I'm kind of curious about what your methodology is, because you've been doing this for quite a long time,
Right.
and you definitely talk to probably a different sphere of bloggers than we normally do. But I'm very curious as to what your methodology is, because of your platform.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's changed. There's sort of been, I guess, two phases of my career, and they've been very much influenced on what I said before. I guess the how busy the internet became. Like when I started, it was easier to grow audiences. It was all about advertising. Everyone was, you know, using Google AdSense to make money, and I was familiar with selling banners directly to sponsors on my site. And then with affiliate marketing, you know, that was an obvious income stream for a lot of people as well. Whatever it is, you know, your blog is about, you can find a product on Amazon, or in my case, you can find ebooks or software and make affiliate commissions. But the difference, especially in the last sort of more recent years, is the need to niche down. And I'll just sort of explain how that might differ from your niching down, because your methodology is very much, here's almost like a product category, and let's build a niche website around that. Mine has been more about, here's a expertise category, and let's build a niche, or not a niche website, but it's still a niche website, but it's more a expert based website. So I focused on helping, especially more recently, what I would call knowledge experts. So a person who essentially knows how to do something that other people value. You know, whether that's, you know, fix a broken back, you know, sore back, I can help you with that. Whether it's losing weight, whether it's better skincare, whether it's learning how to travel around the world, you know, very cheap travel hacking. It could be anything, but it's something that you've developed as a skill set over the years. You've got some credibility there. You've possibly even already coached people in the real world doing that. And you want to take that knowledge and package it up into digital products and sell it online. And I've been essentially teaching people how to grow the audience and how to use, in particular, the combination of a blog as a content distribution channel and an email list as a direct response marketing tool to automatically sell those products. I've been very big on getting as close to passive income as I can from selling my products. So it was all about building automatic traffic funnels, automatic sales systems using emails, and automatic delivery of your digital products. So I focused mostly on that in recent years and teaching that. Earlier days, people were more about what I would call the magazine model of blogging, which was more like, let's build the next TechCrunch or the next Mashable or the next whatever at the time, you know, big site, Huffington Post, Business Insider. So, it was sometimes, and certainly in the very, very early days, you could get away with it as a one-person show attempting to write 20 articles a day covering every little news bite about your industry. But those are the bloggers who actually burnt out. Some of them even died. There was a few cases of people, working themselves to the bone. That model, I have very few examples today where I can point to and say, this person has made it work. It's funny though, because my most successful case study student, a guy named Mitch Wilson, he got into blogging. One of my very first students, he started a sports blog network called sportschatplace.com. And he's one of the exceptions to the rule. He went and hired a team of writers so they can cover all the sports. And he actually has, I think he publishes, it was crazy, 36,000 posts a month they publish to cover all the different sports events, because you can imagine how many games are happening around the world of all these top sports, and they literally are covering every game. So he's got this huge team. They monetize through everything: advertising, affiliate income, a membership site that they sell their own service or products. And that became a multi-million-dollar business. Like, it's bigger than anything I've ever done. Huge niche. Sports is massively popular. And that's not what I would call one individual expert who knows how to fix a sore back selling a niche product. This is I mean, Mitch is very much still the face and the leader, but clearly he's not the only writer of that blog, and it's a real network now. Most of my case studies are going to be more like Tracy Raftel, who's one of my earlier students as well. She suffered from acne herself, and then she used alternative methods to cure her acne. And then she went online and started essentially teaching people how to get clear skin, created an academy of her training resources, and uses a combination of email marketing and blogging to sell those digital products. So those are kind of like I guess the two different sides of the fence. Today, I kind of lean towards teaching people, it's easier to build a small niche website. I actually love the simple analogy. Get 100 people to spend $1,000 on your products in 1 year, and you're making $100,000 a year in revenue. And that's not hard to find. Well, I should say this. It's not hard in concept. It's hard in terms of the effort required. You have to build an audience. You have to find those 100 paying customers. But that is the pathway for a six-figure business, 100,000 a year business. Especially if you're selling, I sell a $1,000 course. That literally means I only have to make 100 sales a year to make $100,000. So, you can do the math. That's not a lot of sales. It's like, if you've taken refunds as a potential, it might just be 10 sales a month, 2 sales a week. That compared to businesses that are doing 50 sales a day, it seems very easy to pull off 2 sales a week sort of scenario. But the idea being, you're going after a niche market with a niche problem. You have a niche expertise, and I then give people this system for selling and reaching this audience. But it also leads to all these other benefits, like that notoriety you get in your industry. So meeting people who are industry leaders, you get to maybe speak on stage. You get opportunities like writing a book, maybe opportunities to start new businesses. Like I've actually got 2 other businesses now that have very much started because essentially I build an audience through a blog. Like they wouldn't be possible to do these businesses if I didn't actually build this audience, and then within that audience you can find those few customers for this new business. Obviously doing this also gets you the potential to show up on what we're doing right now, the opportunity to speak on podcasts, YouTube channels, Facebook Lives, all these different potential exposure points only happen when you've done something to kind of stand out and show that you are a person who has not only knowledge about a subject but has achieved some results that are worth talking about. That's the sort of thing. If you can combine your expertise and actually spend the time to share it using content on the internet, the benefits can be huge. Like I said, it has changed my life. So that's kind of like the model I really focus on today, the expertise-based blogging, email marketing model.
Mm-hmm. I can definitely say that with the people would be very surprised how one piece of content that is highly targeted and perhaps maybe more niche down than normal, how much money that single piece of content can generate. It could generate $1,000 or more, even just if you had one blog post. But if it was solving a certain type of issue that certain types of people have, and you have an offer there, then people are willing to pay for lots of different things, especially if you can reach them online in a venue like the internet.
Yeah, the global audience. That's the amazing thing about the internet. So
yeah, and even though we have slight differences in terms of our methodologies, like you explained about Mitch Wilson, I think you that was his name. He's got the big website with the sports marketing, and that's kind of, I would say, our general approach to things, because we do a lot of outsourcing. We don't write our content on our portfolio sites. So we hire subject matter experts that we can either on Upwork or just through our own internal writers that we have through rotation. But even though with Mitch's example, that's that's a home run. That's a home run for him for sure. But even if we talk back to was it Tracy? So Tracy, yes, with the acne website, even though she has subject matter expertise in the acne niche, and she's possibly selling a product, I assume, based on your methodology.
Yes.
There's absolutely no reason why there's a segment of her website, like the blog, that is also targeting, keywords like, I don't know, best acne facial for 2018. And especially
Right.
if she's got all that traffic coming in, that's just extra traffic plus an extra form of revenue essentially for her.
You're like strategically, you're kind of like talking about what do you want to focus on for income streams. Like there was a time for a good number of years where I was, like you just said, I would write a blog post specifically reviewing a piece of software, trying to make affiliate sales. Plus I'd be running, banner ads direct to sponsors across my entire blog. Plus I'd be selling my own course through launch campaigns and email marketing. So there'd be these three kind of main revenue streams. And that was, good and bad. I mean, it's never bad to have three revenue streams. It's three revenue streams. But for me, I made the choice because I wanted to, I guess, double down on my own products, which meant writing blog posts specifically related to my products rather than, say, reviewing an affiliate product or going after a niche term to, recommend something on someone else's website. So that was just a strategic choice to kind of, I guess, close the bubble around me, my name, my personal brand, my products, and stop sending people away to an advertiser's site or an affiliate recommended site. That being said, there's still times where it always makes sense to recommend something as an affiliate because, for example, I'm not an email autoresponder company. So, you need to have an email autoresponder to run an online business. So I'm always going to be talking about Aweber or ConvertKit or, I use Entreport myself right now for my email. So that opportunity to make an affiliate sale is still there. And of course, I'm a guy teaching people how to blog. So I'm going to recommend hosting companies and domain name companies. And there's going to be the affiliate commissions from those as well. So those things are always an opportunity once you build an audience. I think that, as you mentioned earlier, it's the audience that gives you the opportunity. Then you can decide how do you want to monetize, which of these channels suits what your goals are.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned before too that you did not start collecting emails until
a
year later, which is, that's quite a bit because you're probably going really hard during that first year there. And I think another point is that, at least from a personal standpoint, I believe that if you are starting an affiliate site, I think the end goal is to actually have a product. So regardless of whether that's a physical product that you're going to produce and sell on Amazon and replace and put into your reviews, that's one strategy, or it's just like a digital product like an ebook or something like that. I think the end goal truly is to have your own product because you keep 100% of the margins. That's that's a simple way to put it, right? You have a lot more control
of your own product too. I mean, I remember looking at the conversion rates, and I'd write an email to sell an affiliate product, and whatever, 10 sales. Write an email to sell my own product, 50 sales. It's just a stronger connection. Your audience, your product versus your audience, someone else's product.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of one of the techniques, at least for us, is that, it's just a matter of just starting, right? So it's a matter of getting that either, obviously, if you are not a subject matter expert, it's kind of hard for you to get started writing that content yourself, but it's good too, because all you have to do is just look at the top 10 pages on Google for the keyword that you're going for and just copy those topics.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the first part of manual search engine optimization, we'll call it.
Yeah.
But let's talk about whether or not so you've got a whole host of bloggers in your community there. What would you say it usually takes for someone to go and become full-time in digital entrepreneurship in the blogging world?
As I said, I focus on the subject matter experts, the knowledge experts. So I usually find most of the people who do succeed are the ones who have really had a significant amount of time already doing what they do. It doesn't have to be online. In fact, it often isn't online. It's been something they've done for a career or a hobby, and they maybe have spoken to people as a coach or as a teacher or even just a fan, of something that they really enjoy, and then they can basically love the process of sitting down every day on their laptop and writing articles about that subject and going and meeting other people and doing interviews and getting interviewed. Like, all those things have to be something they're looking forward to doing and passionate about doing. Plus, there has to be an audience that spends money on that topic. So it's a bit of, there's so many of those cool diagrams out there that talk about the sweet spot of a Venn diagram of, what an audience has a pain point, plus they have to have the financial capabilities to spend money to solve that pain point. Plus you have to have the solution to that pain point and the knowledge to actually, provide it. So you got to find that combination, because sometimes, you know something or love something, but no one wants to spend money on it. Or sometimes you have something where, there's a lot of people who really love a topic or will spend money on a subject, but you're just not passionate about it. Like I remember with the internet, there was a long time where SEO as a topic itself, highly lucrative. You were SEO coach, consultant, service provider. You can make a ton of money, still is, right? Obviously a huge industry in SEO. And for me, I was like, I've actually done really well at SEO. I SEO'd my editing company. I SEO'd my card game business. I SEO'd this new blog. I'm like, why don't I make money as an SEO consultant or create a product on SEO? And I realized as the years went by, I just got so sick of trying to keeping up with algorithmic changes, the latest Google switch to this, to that. And that's part of being an SEO person, is to be passionate about continuing to learn and test and tweak and enjoy the process. Even like what you said before, going to Google, looking at the top 10 phrases for a certain keyword or top 10 articles for a certain keyword phrase, and then producing your own articles around those keywords. Like, for me, that can be like one of the most boring styles of writing out there, because at the end of the day, you're kind of just doing what someone else has done in your own words, where I would rather go, I just had this amazing experience in my life, or I just did something and I want to write about that because it's exciting to me. So that to me is an element. And I'm always cautious saying this. Passion is really important, but it's not the only ingredient. Some people go out there and say, you got to do what you're passionate about. Some people say, screw the passion, go out and wherever the money is, feed a starving crowd is the most important advice you can ever follow. And I think they're both important, but for different reasons. One is about making sure there's money to be made. One is making sure that every day in the morning you wake up excited to turn on the computer and do the work. And you want both. And I've been lucky enough, and I'll have to say, I didn't have both in my card game business or my editing business. Both of those businesses were learning experiences. They each made more money as I continued to grow, but there's a reason why I eventually sold them both and went all in on this world of blogging and information publishing. I liked it way more. I liked writing at cafes. I liked jumping on a podcast and interviewing someone who'd done something with a business. I liked the idea of making money from just sending emails and selling digital products, not physical products, and not having to worry about selling a service with my editing company and essentially a service that I didn't care about. It's a great company, but I'm not excited about this topic anymore. So, for me, yeah, you got to find the Venn diagram sweet spot if you want the sustainability. And then to go back to your question, every successful blogger who has come through my world, I look at what they're doing. Mitch loves sports. Tracy suffered from this acne herself and wants to help other women recover. She's passionate about that healing process. I've got another way more current student. Her name is Kathy, and she helps people and has helped people for many years before she even met me with it's called dissociative disorder. It's basically multiple personality disorder. And as you can imagine, that's a powerful thing for her to help people with. So she's wanted to help people with that and has for a long time. And then she decided to turn that knowledge into an online business. And, I always love sharing her story because she at one point was living in her car, and now she's making over $10,000 a month from her online coaching business, predominantly based off a blog where she just put all her help. She just said, I've got to take what I know about this problem and put it into blog posts. And it helps that people also Google for this subject and looking for therapy and support because they're struggling with it in their life. So it's a bit of a combination of these different things coming together in the right person, the right place, the right niche. But when it works, it's just beautiful to see it because they're loving what they're doing. They're making amazing money. They're making big impact as well. I'm always cautious because I know a lot of your audience, they might just be selling a set of saucepans on Amazon and making great money with a niche website about saucepans. And I think that's a fantastic opportunity we have as a vehicle for profiting. But at some point down the line, you're probably going to hopefully, move past I'm just doing this because I got to make money. That's phase one, where we all go through that. It's a bit of a desperation phase, but we got to pay our bills, right? When you get past that, then you get to be a bit more pick and choosy. So then you get to ask yourself, all right, well, I'm selling enough saucepans that my rent and my food is covered. What do I really want to do now with my next project? And that might be more in line with, maybe not quite a product facing business, or maybe it still will be, but you want to do the whole kitchen because you just love kitchens or something like that. And I think that's really important, getting the opportunity to ask yourself, what will I be excited about focusing on a day-to-day basis, on selling, on helping people with, and you got to ask yourself that question.
After hearing you say all of those points, I think the one thing that's very, very clear, which I always want to make extremely clear to people, is that even though it's an online business, it doesn't mean that it's easy. It's still very, very hard. You got to get up, putting out content out there, especially writing. Writing is a very, at least to me, it's not, and I'm a content manager, to me, it's not even an easy thing. I have to get up very early sometimes, 6 a.m. to make sure that there's quality time to have creative moments in the day, especially in the morning, just to write and get all that out because it's important. It actually helps generate income for the business and stuff like that. And to go on to another point is that you mentioned the aspect of moving on past the kitchen pans affiliate website, and that's exactly how Human Proof Design started. Is that Dom Wells, our CEO, he had 2 websites. I'm probably not going to name the first one because I'm not sure if that's public knowledge. But the one that he talks about, a lot is the shaving website. So he used to have a shaving website, and that's once that started generating enough income and helping him get a little bit of time back in his life, then he started focusing half of his efforts on Human Proof Designs and blogging there. And this website, Human Proof Designs, has grown quite fast, to be honest with you. And I don't think that would have happened unless, obviously, Dom had not set up the 2 websites that allowed him to write about the experiences. Number one, they would help someone else. So it's the exact same thing that you were talking about, but almost in a slight reflection based on your own.
I bet you he loves teaching probably more now. Like he probably loves helping others to do what he did more than what he actually does, if you know what I mean. Like he'd love to help so many other people create their own niche success more than, say, creating another shaving website or another, fish tank website or another, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, it's an evolution, right? You go through each of the phases. You got to learn before you can teach. You got to get a result before you have credibility. So yeah, it's a process.
Yeah, for sure. It's I'm gonna say one thing that's bad mouthing, and that is that one of the worst things I see on the internet is 20-year-old, 21-year-old coaches, life coaches that have ClickFunnels accounts. That's probably that's a little on the spammy end for me. I never believe those sorts of things. So let's talk about maybe some certain strategies. So you've talked to you talk to people all the time in terms of how to grow their own blogging business as a subject matter expert. But even that in itself is quite hard, right? So do you have any strategies for maybe like time management or anything like that that
Yeah.
helps people out? Because I think that's
Well,
important.
let me narrow in, because people who come into my world probably experience the same thing that your guys or your people do, your community, with, which is overwhelm and just the sheer amount of tasks that seem to need to be done, the amount of knowledge that needs to be gained, and you kind of run up against these technical challenges that, I can't even get my WordPress site working correctly. I don't know how to, add a new blog post or change the title tag and for the SEO, or, basics. And then you're like, God, I'm hitting these hurdles before I publish my first piece of content. How am I going to make this work, right? So I always teach my audience, especially if that's your kind of problem, to think in, I guess I call it sprints. I'm a big fan of the sprinting methodology, which comes from the world of software engineering. Software developers often work in sprints to complete milestones. They're like stepping stones to finish software. And I believe sprinting is great for us too, because it allows you to chunk down and kind of ignore the big picture, because the big picture is what overwhelms you. But if you look at, all right, and this is exactly what I tell my students for, say, their first sprint, or really it's their second or third sprint. The first sprint is going to be, set up your blog and get your domain name. That's probably, everyone's step one. But once your website exists, and I'm also assuming you already know your topic. So some people come into this going, I don't even know my topic. But if you already are pretty certain you're going to be going into a certain space, whether it's selling a certain product or teaching a certain type of solution to something, and that's usually for my guys, they're more teaching a solution to something, helping people solve a problem. I say, think about your first 10 blog posts and consider those also going into some kind of automatic email sequence, or even possibly combined into a short report. Because obviously when you start, if you begin an email list, you've got nothing to incentivize joining the email list. So it's really good if you can get some kind of, a handout is very common for people to give a 10-page something to get started on your email list. Sometimes it can be an audio, sometimes it can be a video. I generally work with a lot of people who like to do the content production that's more on the writing side, although it certainly works just as well. It could be 10 videos instead of 10 articles or 10 audios. But the idea is, think about, let's say you're going to be dealing with the sore back issue, and that while curing a back might require several different aspects, like there's probably the muscle aspect, and there's just how they're living their life. There may even be diet or something like that too. And you have to kind of slowly educate a person around all these different subjects. But you also know that there are these maybe 2 or 3 things they can do and immediately get like a 40% improvement in their back pain. Because what you want is to get people to move as close to solving a problem as they can, as quickly as they can, because then they'll anchor you as the helpful person who helps solve their problem, the actual expert, or at least the person who's helpful. So if you can give that away for free, which it's a concept I learned a long time ago from a guy named Evan Pagan called moving the free line. Another concept I learned from some other marketers about giving a result before asking for a purchase. If you can get people a quantifiable outcome before you even ask them to buy something from you, they're more likely to buy something from you. So if you think about the sprint idea, sore back, I'm going to aim to write, let's make it really simple, 5 blog posts in the next 5 days. I want them to be the first 5 blog posts on my blog, but also I'm going to combine them into a free downloadable handout as an incentive to join my email newsletter or my email sequence. And then I go, well, what are the first most important 5 things I want people to learn to help them with their bad back? And in this case, it might just be, here's 5 exercises you've got to do, and that will immediately alleviate 10 to 40% of your back pain. And then you can give them a handout. Here's the 5 most important back exercises to alleviate your back pain. Opt into my email list to get it. And that's it. That's the sprint. 5 blog posts. We're going to turn it to handout. We're going to get our email list set up. We're going to have our blog with those 5 blog posts done. And then your platform is set. It's like you've made a massive step forward to building your business, because from that point forward, you can grow your list. Your blog's not empty. So when people show up, you've actually got content there. it's not unrealistic to say write 5 pieces of content. I think every person who's going to get into this online business thing should feel capable of producing 5 articles or videos or whatever. So it's reasonable, it's manageable, and it actually has a fairly big impact on the overall process towards building a successful business. So that could be sprint 1. Sprint 2 might be some sort of marketing sprint, like you're going to go and try and get yourself interviewed once a week on other people's podcasts for 5 weeks, or you might try and get a guest article written on other people's websites, or maybe you'll try and get your social media up to a certain number of followers. Whatever it is, there's a sprint you can focus on. So I'm a really big fan of that methodology. I still do that on a day-to-day basis. If you look at my to-do list, it's usually got 1 or 2 items each day, and if I do that 1 or 2 things, I call it a good day. There's nothing much else. As long as I kind of do the 80-20, the Pareto principle, the most important activities for that day. Kelvin, you'll be today's activity. My one task is to show up on your interview here before I go get lunch and other stuff. And that's kind of how I make sure the machine keeps getting fuel, keeps growing, keeps building. Obviously at the start, you're kind of like building a snowball, and it's really small, and you need to get it much bigger so it's got its own momentum. So there's a bit more work at the beginning, but if you keep it in sprints and you have an overall strategy, that to me is one of the best kind of tips for getting things done, essentially, in terms of productivity.
I really like that, actually. The number one, the sprints, because sprints are awesome. It's what we do also for the managing of the Human Proof Design's content strategy. So we just do content sprints. That's nice. That's what we call them. And even people building their own building affiliate sites and stuff like that, they're also working in sprints by kind of bundling things. So they bundle all of their work. Like they do 10 outsourced articles with one specific writer that they've created in their, what we call, it's called the hiring funnel. So it's like you make the writer jump through a couple different hoops so that that they're the best candidate, like any other best practice for hiring. So yeah, absolutely love that stuff. Personally, on my own sites, I'm collecting email addresses on one of my sites, but I don't use it. I don't have anything set up on that end there.
That list?
I've got the list and it's collecting email addresses, but it's I don't know what you call it. It's
empty.
There's no autoresponder set up,
right.
So I'm not being a good
not nurturing your list.
Yeah, I'm not nurturing it. So you've kind of given that whole you've given the strategy of doing the sprint of 5 blog posts and then creating something that's very helpful for that audience there. And then so after that setup, once they're in your email list, it sounds like this is your territory now, because we're talking about funnels a little bit, right? So what happens after that then? Like, what's the is there a specific sequence that you like to bring people through, or is that what happens after that? How does the nurturing happen?
Yeah, I mean, I wish we could talk for hours, because obviously how to sell through email is a subject in itself, and a lot of it depends on what you're selling. So my people, and myself included, I have been selling either a front-end product, which has a low price, so like an ebook for under $50, probably under $30, all the way up to a flagship course for $1,000 to $2,000. Now, obviously, to sell a $1,000 to $2,000 product requires a bit more content than to sell a $29 product. There's different positioning there, but in principle, it's the same thing. You're delivering warm-up content, trust-building content, educational content through email, strategically designed to prime people to be interested in that product. And it's all quite linear. So if I go back to the bad back example, if you've written or produced these 5 videos with exercises on getting that first initial improvement with back pain, but you also ultimately want to sell them a $500 course that's got way more exercises, it also talks about diet, it also talks about managing chronic back pain as you get older, maybe calcium or whatever, bone density, things like that. There might be some science you've got to teach people as well. So all these elements go into your course. But you also know that at the end of the day, what a person wants right now is to live again, to be able to play sport again. So I would assuming the product's already there. Like some people, obviously, if you don't have a product, often the first thing my people will sell will be some sort of one-on-one coaching, because that's something you can sell from day one. But let's assume the course is there for sale. Then the email sequence is usually about 2 weeks long. And it's a combination of introducing you and your expertise, since you can't assume that they know you already. They might have Google searched, found your first or second or third article about an exercise, joined that email list. Now you got to introduce yourself. Hey, I'm Kelvin. I'm a back specialist. I actually had a sore back. I was in hospital for a couple, had surgery, didn't fix it. Finally discovered these exercises and realized I was missing a few key components. And I want to take you through what I learned and help you recover with your own back. So your story is first. Then you can move on to, I often have a combination of essentially how to, which is some sort of introductory training. It's usually like a simple step to get, might be, in this case, it might be another back exercises, or it might even be, I have another concept called an AHA email or an AHA blog post. It's where you're kind of like, you're dropping a knowledge bomb. So with back pain, it might be, do you realize the 90% of back pain has nothing to do with your muscles? It's actually got to do with lack of this particular nutrient in your body. And you're like, whoa, I thought it was all about picking up stuff badly, or, all physical. I didn't realize it was, I'm not getting enough almonds in my, or protein or something. I'm obviously pulling this out of my hat. This is not the actual truth, but it'll be something like that where you go, whoa, okay, like I didn't realize that. It's usually counterintuitive or completely left field. That's why it's an aha moment. It really, smacks people around the head and go, wow, this guy, Kelvin, really knows his stuff about this. I'm going to pay more attention. Then you might drop some case studies, which are really important. So, Kelvin helped John and Sally and Casey, because, maybe they're interviews, maybe they're just little testimonial case study type things. I usually do interviews like we're doing now on audio or video, and I'll put them in an email sequence. And then you actually start making an offer. So it's kind of like a logical progression, because by then they've learned about you. You've actually taught them something. You've given them an aha breakthrough. You've also dropped some case studies to show that your teaching actually works for other people as well. So you're credible. And now, hey, the next step is obviously you got to do this training too and fix your back. So here's my course. Here's a special offer for it. And usually in my system, we run some kind of special week 2. So week 1 is education and trust building and credibility building. Week 2, special offer. You can get my course, normally $1,000, but it's $499 only this week, only for first-time customers. And that will be another sequence of emails that talks a bit about the course, drops another case study maybe, and then finally, puts a bit of scarcity in there. Hey, you've only got 24 hours before this special price goes away. And that's 2 weeks of emails that people go through on autopilot once you've set it up, and that'll sell your product. So I've actually had, as we're talking now, I've had like 12 or 13 different funnels of this type, selling everything from an ebook to a $2,000 flagship course to a membership site, through various different training funnels, whether it's teaching traffic or mindset or how to buy and sell websites as a business. I also teach something called services arbitrage, which is essentially setting up services that other people deliver, kind of like my essay editing company. And all these things will sell related products I have through email, very often on autopilot too. Once you've set it up, you just, you got your blog, you got a traffic source, you've got automatic sequence of emails going out. You should have automatic sales once you get all of that up and running and working well. So that's kind of like a nutshell, a short email course training there for you, Kelvin.
Oh man, when you're talking about all that stuff, I could just feel my nerd brain just just pulsing, because I wanted to dive deeper into all the tricks for, because if you just said that you've got 12 email funnels going on, essentially, one of the things I would wonder about is what you would do to tweak that. But I also think that that's probably a different, maybe a little bit of a different conversation as well.
A long one, potentially, too.
Yes, exactly. That's why. And I want to be respectful of your time. One thing I do want to talk about, though, is that we asked some of our listeners for some questions, and Neil had asked us about So when you launch a new blog, startup, or whatever, what are some early signs that it's going to be profitable or successful? So keeping that in mind, what are some early signs? I think it might be interesting for us to talk about your entire journey, because you've got 20 years of digital entrepreneurship experience in there, right? So each one of those probably has some signals in there, and you've also got some new projects too, which I think the audience would be interested in hearing the traction for that, and why you think that's going to be successful.
Yeah, that's a great topic. It's one of those things where it's painful to struggle, right? We all go through it. I mean, I've had plenty of websites I built that went nowhere. My most current business, it's called inboxdone.com. It's email outsourcing. So we essentially help basically busy entrepreneurs. They usually still do their own email, which is crazy. It's like the last thing we think to outsource. And we provide a human being to essentially do their email for them. I've had, like, I check my email once a month. I've not done my email for 12 years. I've all the way back in that essay editing company was the first company I hired someone to do email. It just, I couldn't get laptop lifestyle freedom without bringing someone on to do that last step in the outsourcing puzzle. So at the start of this year, we actually launched a company to do that. And yeah, traction, right? So we're thinking, first of all, is this a viable business? That was my obvious question. I'm like, I think there's a need in the market for this, but can we deliver it at a profit? We're talking about, paying human beings, and they're going to be human beings with a high level of English, because they're going to go into people's inboxes and answer their emails. So, we got to make sure they're qualified and credible to do that. So I wasn't certain we can run a business around it. I wasn't certain about the demand for it. So the first thing we did, and this is what's great about building an audience, is we were able to do a beta test or an MVP or an MVS, a minimal viable service test, minimal viable product in the tech world. So, and that was simple. It's like, here's the premise for the service. We'll do your email for you. So all we did, like, this is really a basic test. I wrote an email to my newsletter and said, hey, we're looking for a couple of beta testers for a brand new service. We basically will. I said the same people that handle my email will handle your email, but we've only got space for 2 people, right? Because we're testing this. So we got our first 2, and that, to me, that's traction test 1. Did anyone stick their hand up and say, "Am I interested in this?" This is obviously from the point of view of a person who already has an audience. So this is a huge advantage of building an audience, is you've got this, like you do surveys, you've got this testing tool for new business ideas as well. So that company showed that level of traction. We started delivering the service for those 2 people. So when you get people paying money, that's obviously a huge sign of traction. I think that's like the best sign of traction ever, is some kind of cash flow. And then we continued to grow the business this year. I got, all the signs are positive. What's important to note, though, is this is a combination of a very obvious pain point. If someone is drowning in email and spending 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours at night replying to their messages outside of the job they already do, or outside of running the business they already do, they're feeling that pain. I think that's a really important point for any new business idea. How strong is the pain? How motivated are people to actually remove or change this aspect of their life? Or, how motivated are they to buy something in the case of maybe some niche products? So we continue to roll out that business, and yeah, it's growing, and it's my main project focus right now. But if I go back in time and look at some of the businesses before I had audience, and that's worth pointing out, because most people listening to this don't start out with an email list, don't start out with traffic, and so on. And my card game business, I started from scratch. My essay editing company, I didn't have an email list. I had to build that website and get the traffic. And even day one of blogging with my Entrepreneur's Journey blog, I was never a writer or a content creator on that topic before. So all those businesses had to start from zero. And the way I kind of, decided whether it was worth continuing, if the traction was good enough, was essentially through little incremental responses from the world out there, your audience, your potential customer base. So in all of those businesses, am I getting some kind of sign of growth after doing something? So card game business, did anyone show up to read the article I wrote about the tournament I last played in? What was my traffic stats? 10, 20, 50, 100 visitors a day to that article. What am I getting? Essay editing company, am I getting an email asking about the prices of our service, or How long, can we help them with this? Obviously, traffic is number one too. Was I getting any visitors? But I want to also see a human being emailing me saying, I'm actually that serious about potentially buying your service, but I've got some questions, right? It's a further level of interest. And then, going forward, creating an email list. Am I getting opt-ins? How many opt-ins am I getting? So there's all these little signs that are essentially all signs of life of other human beings engaging with what you're doing, whether it's traffic to a piece of content, an opt-in to an email address, a question via email, to the point of making a sale and getting that first revenue stream going. They're all little signs of this engagement, the potential customer. And I think, to be honest, a lot of this goes back to that Venn diagram we talked about earlier. Have you found a sweet spot of a hungry audience? And I'm certainly not the first entrepreneur and marketer to talk about feed a starving crowd. I think that phrase has been used over and over and over again in the history of teaching business. You got to go where the people are already hungry. Don't try and sell food to people who have no need to eat that product, right? So that's really important. I have a bunch of websites. I started a website on MP3 music, about activism. I had an English school in the real world that I just struggled to get any customers in the door, and I really hated it having to go in an office. All these things were wrong subject, or not feeding or not going after a hungry audience, or using the wrong business model to do so. As successful as my essay editing company was, and my card game business were, one of them had low margins, the card game business. The essay editing company was in a subject that was very difficult for me to continue growing because I wasn't interested in it. I move on to blogging, and it's like, okay, I care about the topic. It's a content-based business. I don't have to be in an office. It's completely digital. But there's still, I'm not like, for example, buying traffic. I'm not like a Facebook ad specialist where all I have to do is have money and using Facebook, and I can just drive traffic to affiliate products. That's, I saw a lot of people doing that. And I was like, man, I've got to write all these blog posts to get my audience, but they're free. These guys are just good at crunching numbers, and they're just, doing Facebook. So there's all kinds of ways to sort of see this a little spark of results, but you have to make sure it's all starting to line up, all the elements, what you're doing, the signs of potential sales, the excitement in your own body about continuing to do what you're doing, a growing marketplace, what's the competition like? There's a holistic approach to making any kind of business work, but it doesn't have to be complicated. Like my newest business with Inbox Done, it literally was, let's just offer the service to an audience that already pay attention to me. And if we can get one customer, we can learn about what they want and how to deliver it and what to charge. And then we can go from there. And then after that, we built a website. And then we started, doing more marketing to get the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth customer, and so on.
There's a lot of I'm imagining that there's a lot of SOPs and things like that go into your Inbox Done business, just because, at least from my feeling, it might be a little difficult to hand that off to somebody as a service and things like that. So like who's the ideal customer for Inbox Done?
Yeah, I mean, it's someone who already has email as a problem. I think most people will know already that they're the right potential customer, because they are just dealing with an inbox that takes too much time. And they know, like for me, it was very obvious. I was looking at my inbox going, I'm not the right person to deal with most of these emails. They should be done by someone else, because they might be like, where do I download this PDF, or an invite to speak on a podcast, and I want someone else to clarify and schedule and so on. Or it might be spam, or people I need a wall against some people, or it could be customer service questions like, where do I buy this, or which one of these should I buy? And I felt two things. I didn't want to deal with half of it, and I wasn't dealing with the other half good enough. Like I wasn't following up with potential customers well enough as well. I wish I was, a follow-up process should be like 7 times you should try and get a customer. They email you once, over the next 2 weeks, keep going back to them, because eventually they'll say yes. But I was doing it once or twice because I was too busy doing other things. So for me, it was like, okay, there's a ton of opportunity in my inbox. There's also a ton of wasted time in my inbox. If I can get someone to be that front-facing door person to first deal with all the basic emails, but also be potentially a person who can bring in new sales by following up with potential customers. So, focus on the priority stuff, get rid of the non-essential email. That leaves me to do all my creative work, whether it's creating products or doing what we're doing right now, some kind of, promotion, marketing, media, talking, education, teaching, and so on. So that's what I was looking for. So anyone who's in that boat, anyone who's just super busy with their email, obviously, you've got to be it's not the first thing you outsource, because you have to have some kind of cash flow. It's not, you have to have some kind of operating business. You have to have emails coming at you. You don't do this when you've got no attention yet. You don't do this when you've got no emails coming into your inbox from which to process. But if you feel that sense of lost opportunity, then you're a good candidate. And it really is, it's kind of funny because I outsourced tech straight away. Oh, not straight away. Actually, I did spend about 5 or 6 years trying to build websites myself when I was really young. But once I started to get any kind of cash coming in, the first thing I did was I got to get someone to build and update my websites, because I'm so not good at HTML, web servers, CSS, databases. This is not where I should spend my time. And that makes sense. I think we all get that today. We go online and hire someone to do a logo. We hire someone to do install a nice theme. We hire someone to set up all of our hosting and technical aspects. And maybe we learn how to use our email autoresponder or something like that. But so we do that, and we're good at, say, hiring someone to write our blog posts, right? You guys teach people how to find writers and get people to create your content, because you don't want to be the writer in your business or the content creator in your business. I just recently hired someone to produce a video for me. They came and filmed, they do the editing, they produce it. I give them feedback, but they're doing all the work, and that makes sense. I'm not a video guy. So when it came to email, it seemed strange to me that every entrepreneur I met was still doing their own email. It's the last thing they ever think about outsourcing. It's something to do with control, letting go. We just don't naturally think of that area as being something someone else can do. But in reality, often the case is someone else can do a better job than you're doing for 99% of the emails. Yes, there's probably a small percentage that you will always have to be the person replying. Fair enough. But everything else should be handed off to someone else who will do a better job. They'll do a quicker job. They'll do a better follow-up process, which, more important than anything, there's no better productivity tip I can give anyone than stop doing your own email. Because I'll ask you, Kelvin, how much time do you spend on email during the week?
Maybe probably 4 hours a week, I think.
Yeah.
So it's quite a bit.
Yeah, and everyone will say that, whether you have a job or you're running your own business, everyone, especially if you're getting a little bit of traction with what you're doing, is probably spending, if anything, most of their wasted time is some of the emails that you have to deal with. So if you can get back 3 out of those 4 hours, that's a lot of time. And, for some people, it's just, I want to spend that time with family and friends. For some people, it's I can finally get to creating that book or creating that course or doing more marketing or building a second business or traveling. For me, it was actually about travel freedom. I wanted to not be trapped to my inbox, because I did travel, but I was on my phone, I was looking to see, is there a job I have to process? I'm going to miss it. And that's not a way to travel. I wanted to make sure those urgent messages, someone else was there to deal with them. So I had no stress and no need to constantly check the phone when I'm traveling. So that's basically the premise behind Inbox Done. And as I said, it's not a hard sell for the right person, because they know that email is not what they should be doing, and someone else should step in and do that job for them.
Personally, for me, as I would probably mark myself as more of a creative type of person. Right. I don't feel like inboxes are my best friend. So if anyone sends me an email and if I don't reply to you in 2 days, I'm sorry about that. Just because I'm doing things like this. I'm interviewing people, and there's a lot of prep work that goes into that. But I've got one final question for you, and we can cap it here. And just to go back, when I think about all of the different businesses that you've gotten, and we relate that back to Neil's question about early signs of traction. I really do think it sounds like, you know, there's a lot of this like kind of thoughtful experimentation that's kind of in the ethos of Yaro. But the one thing that I've been wondering is the name change.
All
So
right.
the change from Entrepreneur's Journey to Yaro.blog, that's a big change. You know, it's going from a branded, we'll call it a branded name, versus changing it to your own personal profile too, which is, you know, you're always connected to that business, but
Right.
there's a lot of there's a lot of things that could happen when you change your domain name too, right? Like even just search rankings and
Yeah.
branding and all that kind of stuff. So
I'm still
I want to
recovering.
know about, yeah, I want to know about what went through your head, how's it going, and do you have any words of advice for people that are doing that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not a light decision, like you said. So it came about for a number of reasons. First of all, I've never loved the fact that my domain name has a hyphen and it's got the word entrepreneur in it, which is very difficult to spell for a lot of people. As I said at the start of the interview, I literally started this site as a hobby. You know, Entrepreneur's Journey, like I would never register that domain name following the advice I have taught to people for the last 10 years. It just happened. I didn't know that yet. I hadn't learned about good domain name choice. Although that's not entirely true, because I actually had a great domain name for my essay company called betteredit.com. Better Edit. It just got great cadence, got easy to remember. It's better editing. It's, you know, it's this great domain names. I don't know why with my blog I just went, whatever, I'll just get entrepreneurs-journey. It's going to be a fun little social experiment, right? Little did I know that it would turn into what it did. So, but it was okay, because my search rankings were not harmed by it. You know, authority site, long-term content building site. What did happen in the last maybe 2 or 3 years was me having a lot of thinking about the projects coming up. So I was writing this book, which I've basically finished the first draft of, called The Change Manifesto. I was thinking I might spend a bit more time writing around that topic, which is a bit more personal development, less businessy, although they kind of, you know, they overlap a lot. I also was like, well, if Inbox Done is taking off, I might be writing, you know, more around that subject area. We haven't talked about it because it's probably not super relevant, but I've got a solar energy startup in Ukraine at the moment. So I'm building a solar power plant there, which is a completely different type of business. But I'm going to blog about it. I got photos, I got stories to share there too. So the more and more I thought about it, I came to realize what I want to do is reinforce Yaro as an umbrella brand and get rid of the domain name that I never have felt 100%, well, certainly not in the more recent years, felt very comfortable about going out there. Like even on this podcast, like when you said Yaro from Entrepreneur's Journey, it's like entrepreneursjourney.com wouldn't go there. It's entrepreneurs-journey.com, right? And for every interview I've ever done, and I've done hundreds of them over the last decade or so, I've always said at the end, go find me by Googling Yaro, Y-A-R-O, because that's way easy to spell, way easy to remember. My name's a little bit unique, so I can try and be like a bit like Oprah and Madonna and become a one name brand. So I kind of just wanted to move towards reinforcing that message more and more. But like you said, when you make that choice, it's like, what's going to happen to my search traffic? You know, like I'm going to change this domain name. I'm going to get a .blog, not a .com, because the guy who owns Yaro.com wants $3 million for it. And it's like, I'm not going to spend that much money for that domain. You should have a look at what actually is on Yaro.com. It's like a 1990s website. He hasn't updated his website in 20 years, I swear. So it's like, stubborn. Yeah. So then we went through this domain migration process. And as you guys know, with your SEO expertise, it's a rocky process, because you do literally lose a lot of your traffic. Like we went down 2/3 in the middle of the exchange process. And not only that, we did a complete redesign to go with it. So we got a code base that's changed. We got domain name that's changed. And we're still in, I would say, the recovery now as we go through that process. But I have to give some credit to Tim Ferriss too, because Tim Ferriss switched his domain name, or I guess he decided to focus on tim.blog. And that kind of gave me permission to say, okay, it's okay to use the .blog extension, because if Tim can do it, then I can do it as well. I mean, he's obviously got 4-hour work week, and he's got 4-hour body and 4-hour chef. He's got all these different domains for his individual products, but now his main podcast and blog is tim.blog. And that, to me, I was like, more I thought about it, and I had a good chat with my team. Laura, my project manager, kind of helped convince me as well. And we're like, yeah, the Yaro.blog with the podcast, with the blog content. And I also think, and this is for everyone listening, people have asked me over the years, should you personal brand or should you brand? So a standalone brand. And I think it's a very important question to ask yourself, especially at the beginning. Obviously, I made my change 10 years later, so you never really locked into something. But a lot of the people I follow, and like a lot of our listeners will know too, the Lewis Howes, the Pat Flynn's, the Chris Duckers, these are all friends of mine too. And you look at their domain names. So yeah, Pat Flynn might be Smart Passive Income, and that's his brand, and it's solid. But everyone will say Pat's blog, Pat's podcast. Lewis Howes has the School of Greatness, but at the end of the day, we all call it Lewis. It's Lewis's house stuff. So a lot of people, simply because of the nature of being a content creator, and when I say that, it's a front-facing content creator. So it's you writing or publishing your own videos, your own audios. You're really the brand. No matter what domain names you use, you'll always be Kelvin first. You're not going to be anything else, right? However, if you think about the more the magazine model that we talked about earlier, and perhaps I don't know what some of your main domain names are. I mean, even your company domain name isn't dom, right? .com, right? So it's kind of arguable of what people get more connection with, but I think there's a place and time. Like, for example, Inbox Done. I don't want that to be Yaro's email outsourcing service. I want that to be Inbox Done. I want that to be a brand that, while we're leveraging the trust and the audience I've built to get our first customer base, the future growth of that company it's a brand, it's its own company. Claire, my co-founder, is essentially running the business right now. And as it grows, a lot of our new customers will not essentially come from knowing Yaro. They will come from trusting a new company because of all the marketing we do and the previous experience we've had servicing customers. So and plus, of course, you've always got that issue of sellability, and it would be way easier for me to sell inboxdone.com than it would ever be to sell Yaro.blog. So it's worth factoring that in too. But that relates to the business model. If you're a content publishing person who's selling your own course, your own podcast, your own articles, your own books, you're speaking on stage as you, chances are you want to be Kelvin.com. But if you're building this software as a service startup with a whole team behind it, yeah, you want that to be inboxdone.com and sell it to someone else or something like that. Although Inbox Done is not software, I should probably clarify. It's all human beings.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I think that we could leave it there, because that's a lot of different stuff in there that I think people will be able to take back with them, regardless of whether they're kind of on this content publishing journey or not. It's something, when and you see the internet, you want to get something on there and start building something. So I think that's kind of the best piece of advice that we could probably come around with. Yaro, thanks again for your time. We'll chat soon.
Yeah, that was awesome, Kelvin. Thanks. Good luck, everyone.